in a display of childish pique that surprises only those of us who are new to the tired truths of Marxist duplicity and globalist treachery. The EU response to Trump withdrawing from the Paris Climate Agreement has been less than reasonable. Instead of accepting the withdrawal with grace, or being open to renegotiating the terms, the EU bureaucrats have instead declared that America will not be allowed to withdraw from the climate accord, and that if Trump refuses to agree to it, they will simply go around Trump and make deals with American corporate boards, investment brokers, and other such sundry interests, cutting the president and the American people out of the decision-making process entirely. The Paris Climate Accord is a terrible deal. The carbon credit system is a blatant and naked-faced communist program of redistributing wealth on a macro scale. The plutocratic Marxists who created the European Union have a lifetime of treacheries and entitlements to their name, as well as their petty, bourgeois, Mao-fetishist foot soldiers, whom they use to enforce their will from behind the zombie glow of smartphones and Facebook watch groups. This climate deal illustrates something very important. When this piece of news broke on the 2nd of June, 2017, there has been an outpouring of criticism of EU bureaucrats and their supporters from the mainstream sources of British conservatism, affecting statements of, "See? This is why we want to have nothing to do with these people. They are completely undemocratic." There have also been sycophantic neoconservatives and tame American Republicans espousing similar sentiments. These people do not value or respect democracy at all, they claim, and this is why they are bad people. Not our values. No. These people do respect democracy. In fact, it is explicitly democracy which they are practicing. A group of 28 microstates, that are collectively almost a match for Texas, have decided that their 28 votes overrules the one singular vote granted to the continent-spanning vastness of America. They believe America should be treated no differently than, say, Greece or Poland, when the whole of the EU votes for, and they vote against. That is democracy at work, expressly and explicitly. And that is why democracy is a tyranny. There is nothing fair or just about a democracy. Democracy is 51% of the populace denying the rights of the 49%, at the behest of the interests of the 1%. If you are part of that 49%, your opinions do not matter. If you are part of the 1%, all you need to do is create a block of special interests and racial minorities large enough to comprise 51%, and you own the process. That is not justice. That is not civic structure. It is not, as the Anglo-Saxon says, fair dealings. It is a top-down oppression by intellectually foreign and hostile elements. It is a satanic inversion of the very idea of the state, turning the whole process on head and proclaiming itself the most righteous of righteous systems. Only the euphoric and the enlightened need apply. What are you, some kind of racist? Democracy is not a system of governance. It is a shiny sticker placed over the leering skull of oligarchy, an emerald veil, behind which a stooped and hook-nosed banker scurries, pulling levers and spinning cranks, announcing himself the great and powerful majority. No, dear girl, don't look behind the curtain. Just make sure to vote in November. You have our word that the count will be fair. The only systems of state that ever functioned well and produced healthy and stable societies have been republics, autocracies, and monarchies. What is happening today in Europe and the Anglosphere is adding to the mountain of evidence that this is the case. Democracy is not a system or a way of life. It is the death throes of a civilization. It is the rot in the veins of a dying animal. When materialism has stolen the spiritual legitimacy of the state, and secularism has made pleasure, for pleasure's sake, the only socially acceptable pursuit, then, mob rule, funded by our kind and benevolent overlords, is the only position left to turn to. Unless you adopt a reactionary view and assume a third position. So the next time you see a neoconservative, or Diet Coke conservative, harping on about how undemocratic it is for the self-appointed bureaucrats of other nations to declare American or British processes as null and void, remind them, this is precisely what democracy is, or was, and always has been. It has never been anything else, or will be anything else, than this. 3 wolves and a sheep vote on what to have for dinner. It does not take a wise man from elder days to see where this leads. and the third world outnumbers us 10 to 1.